welcome to the Wellbeing Specialists. And tonight we've got a really good show on for you. But first I'll introduce myself. I'm Tony Neal, and Wellbeing is my business, and I also do wellbeing for corporates and look after their corporate culture. And I do workshops for individuals and business owners. I do customized retreats, and my main job is to maximize the feelings of vibrance, happiness, health, and success. So I'd like to introduce to you Ian. And Ian, can you tell the audience what you do?
Hello, Tony. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Ian Kaminsky. So I'm the founder of the Melbourne NLP Hypnosis Centre. And we use these two powerful techniques to help our clients overcome challenges and excel. And together, myself and Tony, we're the Wellbeing Specialists. Calm down, Tony. Calm down.
No, I'm so excited.
A very special guest joining us today, who we're going to be talking about one of our favourite topics of stress and anxiety management and reduction. And we're joined here today by Inez McSweeney she's actually a doTERRA essential oil specialist. He's an absolute expert in this area, and we're just so honoured to have her online with us today. So welcome, Inez.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being with us. Now we've got some shocking statistics to talk about here, Tony.
Yes, we have. Let me just put them on the screen. Oops. And here they are. So let's just read through some of those shocking stats that we've got. Did you know that 90% of all the diseases are directly caused by stress? 90% of doctor visits is directly caused by stress. 65% of Australians are overweight. 34% of Australians have high blood pressure. And a staggering 1 million Australians are depressed. There's a high addiction to gambling, alcohol and drugs, and our general well-being has been declining over the years. So we've got a lot of work to do, haven't we?
We absolutely do. They're quite sobering statistics, and I would hazard a guess that 1 million depressed individuals around Australia, I would suspect that's actually just barely scraping the surface. That'll be the ones that we know about, the people who are willing to get the help. So how many people are we not aware of? And that's why this topic is so critical, particularly at the moment in Melbourne.
Absolutely. And Dr. Ian just advised me that we're in for another lockdown. So
from what I've just heard, in fact, for one of my clients who rang me up in a bit of a panic to have to reschedule our session tomorrow, she said to me that Victoria's just about to go into another 5-day lockdown beginning midnight tonight, and will only be able to travel, from what I've been told, within a 5-kilometre radius of our residence, and only for those 4 reasons that we've had in the past. So
that's right. We're moving into that stage 4. All the criteria for that, according to the announcements. Stage 4 restrictions for 5 days.
Ines, can you just sort of give us some of your learnings from your cases that you've had from the previous lockdown? Perhaps just, walk us through some of the stages that you've noticed.
Sure. Now, certainly everyone was thrown into absolute turmoil, and my family was no exception. It's not just the essential oils business that I manage. There's a number of other businesses as well, and some of the work that we do is not deemed essential. So not only was I managing the mental health of my family, my children, and remote learning thrown into the mix, but also the mental health of our staff and then of customers. And in fact, between May and July last year, that was where I had an increase in the number of people that were reaching out to me seeking supports to help manage the mental health of the family, particularly as everyone needed to be in that same space, essentially 24/7. So really, really critical thing that we take measures, not just reactively, but try and be proactive about this. Let's do a reflection if you can quickly. What worked last time? what didn't work last time and you need to stop, or what needs to change. And hopefully some of the tips that we're going to talk about today will give you some additional tools that you can use to help manage you through this 5-day period.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. And I suppose the next stage was that when the lockdown finished, people going back to work. Perhaps you can sort of give us a bit of a rundown on that.
Sure. So certainly there was the physical health aspect. People were quite concerned about what they were leaving the home and being exposed to in their environment. There were concerns about, if I'm returning to a high density office setting in CBD, have the air conditioning and air filtering systems been effectively used, effectively cleaned? What about public transport? What additional precautions do I need to take? And what can I do that isn't going to have a negative implication on my health? That aside, then there was also not only the nervous bellies, but also I'm not used to taking public transport anymore. So there's that period of adjustment, trying to get used to going back to our norm, as well as the apprehension about, okay, I've now got this environment that I'm used to. I'm used to being at home. I'm not used to that commuting that I had to do and having to drop people off at different venues. So for some people, they didn't really get a transitional period back into what was their previous normal. So there was apprehensions, separation anxiousness, things like that I was assisting clients with.
I've actually heard of many cases, in fact, where actually owners of businesses have been asking their clients to come back to work, and they've said, "I know I want to stay at home. I don't want to come back to the office anymore."
That's right, because we've identified it's not suitable for every single role, and there are certain elements of roles that, granted, are more difficult to do online, and the face-to-face need-to-need really works. However, people have now gotten used to and started to appreciate, hey, there is a different way that we can be doing things. We can be a bit more flexible or fluid in our routines. And frankly, I like this better balance I've been able to achieve, not being on the road for up to 2 hours a day, for instance, or having to put the kids into care. So there is that adjustment as well, that transition of, okay, this is what I've been used to. Now all of a sudden I've got to change, and it's not within my control. Someone else is dictating this, and that can be really hard for people to digest and be able to assimilate within themselves.
Let's just rewind and perhaps tell the audience, some audience may not be aware, but what is stress and what is anxiety? What's the difference?
Okay, I kind of put it into sort of 3 categories. So firstly, what is worry, and then stress and anxiety as distinctions. And worry is more, okay, this is what's going on in our minds. And any time that we're having those worrying thoughts, now they can be beneficial because they can be great for planning. They can be great for preparing for obstacles and risk mitigation. But, if we're over worrying, if we're overusing that part of our brain, that can have a really big implication and move into anxiety, which I'll talk about in a moment. Then stress. Stress is more the physical sensation in the body, the hormones that are flowing around. Now, again, small doses of stress can be healthy, and in fact, we need an element of stress in our lives. We need stress to wake ourselves up. That surge of cortisol helps us open our eyes and get out of bed. And, it enables us to get out of dangerous situations because we get that surge of energy, that adrenaline that enables us to react quickly, escape quickly. As with worry, if it is heightened for a long period of time or chronic stress, that leads to negative health implications. And then anxiety, I see, is essentially a combination of both worry and stress. So you've got the body and the mind either sometimes competing with each other, which just exacerbates everything, or really pairing up and not giving you any reprieve. So things are completely freaking you out. You're feeling completely overwhelmed and unsafe. So anxiety, people experience different levels of anxiety at different times, and there's a number of different triggers I've found. depending on what people are experiencing.
I think one of the key things I've found, though, is that everyone experiences these at some point in their life. They're very natural. They're things that everyone experiences. But I think the key, as you were saying, Inez, though, is if they come and go, like with an exam or a presentation or a job interview, that's sort of okay. But if it's a chronic problem, like a long-term abusive relationship, or working with a really arrogant, nasty boss, or whatever it might be, that's when you've got major issues, haven't you?
Well, that's right. And also there are times where perhaps you're in a situation in your adult life and subconsciously it triggers a childhood trauma or even ancestral trauma that you may not actually be aware of, or perhaps you've repressed the memories of those things. So stuff that happened in your past or in your lineage can actually present itself in your current day. So sometimes we're aware of the things that are triggering the anxiousness, the stress. Other times we may not be. So hence different tools are great to be able to help us manage these things.
Yeah, I've noticed that one of the things we need to have a look at is what's the root causes of stress and anxiety, and how do we what sort of effects do they have on the body? Perhaps you can just sort of run us through with that.
Yeah, so I've touched on a couple of things. So childhood traumas. So if you've had a particular bad experience, maybe you were told particular things. You always have to shush. Children are spoken to and not heard. That can present itself then if you need to speak publicly, or you feel that you're in a situation where things are not actually going reasonably or appropriately, or your boundaries are being broken. You may not have that courage to speak up about it, and therefore you're going to feel a lot of stress and anxiousness in that sort of situation that you feel you don't have that control over. There's also comparisonitis as well. Oh, that person is so much more successful. They've got it all together. I feel that on that point, social media has a lot to answer for in that sense. Now, I do use social media for my business. It's one of the key ways that I connect with my customers and can communicate and educate them. But at the same time, people, particularly our younger ones that haven't had sort of real life experience, if you will, and have simply grown up in this online world, they're not appreciating that what we see on that camera, on that phone, is one shot out of 100 different angles, getting the perfect light, the editing. There are more and more people out there that are revealing that and being quite transparent about that. But still, when you've got those self-esteem issues, those self-worth issues, seeing stuff like this can really have a major impact and really prevent you from seeing your own worth and shining your brightest. Yeah, and if you're feeling alone, if you don't feel that you can speak up, or you feel, well, this is only me, I feel stupid if I raise this issue, or I don't know who to reach out to because last time I reached out for help, I was chastised for it. It was used against me. So people can then be in a situation where they don't feel they can get the help, and then things manifest, or something wrong with me. Have I seen this wrong? And it just becomes this downward spiral that just self-perpetuates.
You hear also people talk about the imposter syndrome. Have you heard of that one before, and how would you sort of define what that means to yourself, Inez?
I have heard of that, and I see that as sort of hand in hand with the comparisonitis. In terms of they've got it all together. I want to be like that, but I couldn't possibly be like that. Or a case of, all right, I'm going to try and emulate that person. I'm going to do exactly what I believe they do. Or you reach out to them and get mentored by them, but they're a completely different person to yourself. And, sometimes it's great. It means it pushes you out of your comfort zone. So this is where a little bit of stress can be healthy and useful, because you're able to then grow as a result of pushing through that. Don't mind the traffic in the background. But also, if you're doing things that are not aligned with your truest self, it's going to eat away at you, and you're going to get this stress and anxiousness as a result of doing things that you feel you have to do, which are not innately you. It doesn't come naturally. So
Ines,
there is a fine balance.
Ines, I noticed that you're a happiness expert. So tell me about how happiness plays out in people's lives and the type of things that we can do to make ourselves happy.
Sure. I mean, certainly we'd love to have those happy hormones, those endorphins flowing through our body. And there are a number of different ways that we can do that. Certainly, if you have a great sleep, everything thrown your way is going to be a lot easier to handle if you've had that restful, restorative sleep. Making sure we're eating proper food as well, because then our body's getting the nutrients that we need, so it will feel better, and as a result, we will feel better. Tapping into our limbic system is one thing that I love to do with my customers and clients, because limbic system, if you look into that, that's the emotion and memory center of the brain and responsible for key body functions like heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, and the release of hormones. So if we can do things to leverage that system, smell things, experience things in our world that give us that happy, warm and fuzzy feeling, then as a result, our body is going to respond that way and we're going to feel better about things. It's always a lot easier to look at situations as catastrophic as they may be, as challenging as they may be. If we've got that happier mindset going into it, we're going to be more likely to access that frontal lobe, so we can then make cause and effect type decisions. We're going to be able to plan better and get through those situations with a lot more ease and grace than if we're in that really frightened, stressed, sad state.
Just talking about happiness, from your clients, how many people have you found needs a lot of therapy to help them with their happiness?
Look, it is quite mixed. So I use, as it's kind of obvious, essential oils is one of the key tools that's used.
Yeah.
And for some people, that is the one and only sort of additional tool that they need in order to be able to, let's say we put it in a diffuser so we can smell it and hit the limbic system that way, and also help everyone in the household, as well as putting them on our body as we need to throughout the day to help calm our nervous system and help those happy feelings, those happy hormones flow through our body. Other people combine the oils in conjunction with meditations and NLP, so they're able to anchor in those sort of experiences. Getting out in nature, breathing that fresh air, appreciating what's around us, also being very mindful. One of the problems with worry and stress is that we're either thinking about the past or we're fascinated with the future. What about remembering the present moment? And this is where one of the tools I use is getting the oils. For instance, I've got tangerine. Citrus oils are amazing for lifting the moods and helping us feel more joyful, playful and creative. Just get, a drop or two in your hand, rub together, and 3 mindful breaths through the nose. I won't do it the 3 times for this, but that's one way that you can have mindfulness brought into your day with ease, so you can just take that moment to get those really good quality breath in, and also help the mind just focus on one thing rather than all the noise.
It was actually interesting. I noticed on that first slide you showed, Tony, about the stats, that you talked about the rising levels of stress and so on. And then you also mentioned towards the bottom about the addictions.
Yeah, I'll just pop that up again so we can actually see it.
So high addictions to gambling, alcohol and drugs. So do you see, Inez, a strong correlation or relationship between the high stress levels and the high addictions?
Look, I have seen that. Look, I've seen that personally in myself. I mean, ISO was not kind to me. The oils were great and they helped. I also am human. I fell off the wagon. I was emotionally eating. Other people were turning to alcohol, and my past relationship was with an alcoholic, and certainly in times of stress, that would be his crux. I was a former smoker as well. So I can talk from experience in that sense. And certainly, yet people do reach for that immediate element of comfort that helps to repress or dampen what they're feeling, to distract them from what's truly going on. And that's where, you know, okay, having the occasional glass of red, I'm told, is great for your health. I don't drink myself, so I can't personally vouch for that. But it's making sure, okay, if what you're doing is something that you're really reliant on, oh God, I can't wait for 5 o'clock because then it's beer o'clock or whatever it is, then you might want to get with a trusted friend and really ask, is this actually a good thing that I'm doing? Is this a good habit, or is it now shifted into an act of dependence where it has control over you and not the other way around? And some people find it harder than others to actually identify with that conclusion when they need to. But this is why it's really good to have multiple tools at your disposal to be able to lean into when these pressure cooker type situations come up. Not only from a reactive standpoint, but one of the customers that I'm dealing with at the moment, so she's interstate, she's been dealing with a real estate nightmare. Now, I've worked with her before. She's got a number of health concerns and is really highly strung. Her adrenals are completely overworked. So before all the adrenaline runs out from all the cleaning and everything she's had to do to get the property ready for the market because the tenant left it in a horrendous state, it's about, okay, we're going to do stuff now before those adrenaline levels completely disappear and you completely crash, because we don't want you burning out. So there are, whether it's oils, whether it's therapies, whether it is the NLP, meditations, there are a number of different things that you can do proactively if you know something's coming up, but also have them ready to go for when those moments strike as well.
I've just got a question that came through from the audience, from Sally. How do I deal with stress when my husband, Paul, starts drinking? Because I think you've been through that.
Yes, and I certainly didn't have oils in my life when that was going on. But what I can say, I certainly couldn't say anything to stop him from drinking because I was just the nagging wife. Even though I could see the domino effect it was having not only on myself, but the 3 children we shared. So if I had my time again, I'd probably be trying to reach out to trusted family members and having frank conversations. Now, that's not easy, and that's something that I really wasn't able to do. I didn't feel that I could. I didn't have that confidence to really discuss what was going on, because I felt like a failure. I'm this successful woman, and this is the situation I find myself in. I'm meant to be smart. But it really, all you can do is control your environment around you, because unfortunately they need to come to the conclusion themselves that the drinking is not helpful. They need to hit that rock bottom. Part of it is not enabling them anymore. So that's a really deep conversation to be having with trusted friends, with a counsellor, psychologist, what have you. So I'm a massive advocate for getting a mental health plan or mental health care plan from your GP. So if you need to, you can then access subsidised psychology sessions, and that's something that I did. But also in terms of looking after yourself, looking after your stress levels. So what is it that brings you joy? What can you do to help sort of break the cycle of the stress, the worry, the anxiousness that you are feeling? Because unfortunately, the more you're feeling it, the more a negative impact it's having on your physical body, and you're at risk of, like me, then taking it out on the kids, taking it out on your colleagues at work. Some people can channel that angry energy and create greatness, and that's one thing I do, but not everyone's wired that way. So what can you do to look after your own mental health during this time?
So I suppose the question that I would just maybe have a look at here, I think it was Sally that asked the question. Your husband, Paul, who's beginning to drink, I presume it's a real rather than hypothetical situation. Often people drink because they're stressed. I've had many clients that I've dealt with who come to me for gambling or for smoking or drinking. And what the underlying problem generally is a stress-related issue. And they're responding to that either with their drinking, gambling, or smoking.
Yep.
And so what would be really interesting to explore with your partner, Sally, is to, observe or talk about, what's bringing on the drinking. Is it a stress issue? And then, assuming that it may be stress related, you can then look at ways to help your partner deal with the underlying cause, the stress or anxiety, rather than just, focusing on the effect being the drinking.
And this is where it may not be something you can personally talk to them about, because they may just completely shut down or not want to admit to you that there's the problem. So their best mate, their trusted family member, reaching out to them. So getting them involved discreetly, because they may then feel embarrassed and lash out. But certainly don't be tackling this by yourself, because it is something that needs a village.
And can you sort of give the audience, say, 3 top suggestions for them to sort of manage their stress, anxiety, and worry?
Sure. So certainly the things that I do is, that mindful breathing. So I like to pair it with the essential oils, because then I get that aromatic support as well as the good deep breath. Most of us don't breathe deeply enough. We breathe quite shallow rather than to the diaphragm. So doing that whenever you need to, even if you end up doing it multiple times a day. I also love the idea of doing some form of meditation. So whether it is at bedtime, or if you're able to do even just a 3-minute meditation in between meetings, just find a quiet spot, even if it ends up being the toilet stall at work. Just have that quiet time with yourself so you can have that bit of a reprieve. But also make sure that you are looking after yourself also from the inside out. So reducing toxins in your life, which means your body has more to deal. If you have toxins in your life, it has more to deal with, therefore it's less likely to cope with stressful situations. So if there are ways that you can remove toxins from your life, that is going to make your body more able to cope with things physically and emotionally. You'll get additional resilience that way.
And just a question, maybe following on from that, which is a really good point you mentioned earlier, Inez, about the diet, because we know there are certain foods that are stimulants and can promote stress and anxiety. So could you comment on any recommendations you may have about avoiding certain types of stimulants or foods?
Look, diet is very individual. There are so many eating plans out there, and I've looked at a few of them for myself. It really is a case of, firstly finding out what you can't tolerate. Not necessarily an allergy, an anaphylactic response, but maybe what you're feeling within your body, which is then also contributing to your worry and stress levels, is actually due to your body responding to foods you can't tolerate. So finding someone who can do that food intolerance and chemical intolerance testing would be the first way to go. Processed foods and sugar in particular. Sugar is such an inflammatory food. I know certainly in my case, if I eat sugar, I feel it in my joints. It's not arthritis I'm feeling, it's from the sugar causing that unhealthy inflammation in my joints. So if you've got a high processed food and high sugar diet, then that's something definitely to be reconsidering, because that then implicates the bacteria in our gut. And if our gut isn't healthy, the rest of our body is not going to be healthy. And there is that direct correlation between gut health and our mental health. The gut is where majority of our serotonin is made, and that's one that helps us regulate our moods, our stress levels, it helps to dampen things down. So if that's out of whack, then you've got even less chance of being able to naturally cope with everything that's being thrown your way. So making sure whether you're supplementing your diet, because there's always going to be a gap to be bridged. So I use doTERRA supplements myself. There are other practitioner strength supplements that you can get from a specialist, from a functional medicine specialist, nutritionist. But the B vitamins are amazing ones as well. All the B group, particularly niacin, are really amazing for mental health and helping us to have that mental resilience.
I just noticed that we're getting close to the top of the hour. So basically, Ines, can you, in one sentence, give the main message that you want to give to the audience?
We're all experiencing different levels of stress and anxiety at different points in time. It's about finding someone you can talk to and finding tools that work for you that you can implement with ease so that you can have that better quality of life. Beautiful.
And Ian, what's been your main takeaway from today?
Well, Inez has shared with us some amazing sort of information about the various elements in our life that contribute to stress, whether they're nutritional, whether they're environmental, whether they're traumas from the past. There's sort of so many different aspects that she's taught, which has been really, really valuable to know about. So thank you so much for sharing, Inez.
Thank you.
My main takeaway has been the breathing and using the essential oils to help calm, because I think that's one of the most important things. It's the calming to get yourself back to balance, and I think it's really great that you've been able to share that with us. I'm just looking at sort of at the time now, and we need to sort of keep moving on. So I'd like to sort of thank you, Ines, for your magnificent, awesome insights. And I noticed that you've got a few fans out there who love you, and that was great. And we hope that at some stage in the near future we'll be able to ask you to come on again and give us some more insightful comments.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And what we'll do, Tony, we'll actually put Inez's contact details underneath the Facebook Live. So people who've got any further questions they can actually ask, or they can just contact Inez for some more details about what she does, because it's an awesome
Absolutely. Awesome. And also, we've got another exciting show coming on. It is none other than Dr. Ian himself on Monday. He's going to tell us all the gems of what NLP is. And we're really looking forward to this one. This will be a masterpiece. So on that note, I will bid everyone goodbye, and just bear with me for a second. And if you want to contact us, here is our contact thing. So we'll say goodbye to you all, and you take care, right? We'll leave this on the screen.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.